The massive space station floated in the darkness between stars. It was called the Grand Assembly, and it was the largest structure ever built by any species in the known galaxy. Every 10 years, the leaders of all spacefaring civilizations gathered here to discuss trade, borders, and the future of the galactic community. General stood at the window of her quarters, looking out at the endless black void. She was 43 years old, with short black hair and sharp eyes that had seen too many battles. Scars marked her arms and neck, souvenirs from wars that most aliens could not even imagine. She wore the dark blue uniform of the Human Coalition military, and on her chest were more medals than most soldiers earned in 3 lifetimes. Behind her, Lieutenant checked his tablet for the 100th time. He was young, only 28, but he was the officer had ever worked with. His job was to keep track of all the political details that found boring. General said, "The summit begins in 2 hours. The Empire has already arrived, so have the Collective and the Federation." Did not turn from the window. "And how do they feel about us being here?" Hesitated. "They are not happy, General. The ambassador made a public statement this morning. He called humanity a young and foolish species. He said we do not deserve a seat at the council." Smiled, but it was not a warm smile. "They have been saying that for 50 years. Ever since we first left Earth and joined the galactic community, they have looked down on us." This was true. Humanity had only discovered faster-than-light travel 60 years ago. In galactic terms, this was nothing. The Empire had ruled their section of space for over 12,000 years. The Collective had existed for 8,000. To them, humans were like children who had just learned to walk. But these children had grown fast, very fast. In just 60 years, humanity had built a fleet of warships that made even the oldest empires nervous. Human soldiers were famous across the galaxy for their strength, their speed, and their complete refusal to surrender. Where other species would retreat and negotiate, humans would fight until the last breath left their bodies. This scared the aliens. They did not understand it. Finally turned from the window. "What about our colonies in the Theta sector? Has the council made any statements?" His face became serious. "That is the main issue, General. The Empire claims that the Theta sector belongs to them. They say we built our colonies on their territory." "That is a lie," said calmly. "We surveyed those planets. They were empty. No had touched them for over 2,000 years." "I know, General, but the Council does not care about facts. They care about power, and they have more power than we do." Walked to her desk and picked up a data chip. On it was every piece of evidence that proved humanity's right to the Theta sector. Survey reports, historical records, and legal documents that followed every galactic law. She had spent 3 years preparing for this summit. "We will see about that," she said. 2 hours later, walked into the grand chamber. It was enormous, large enough to hold 1,000 delegates from 100 different species. The ceiling was made of transparent crystal, showing the stars above. In the center of the room was a raised platform where speakers would address the assembly. As entered, she felt every eye in the room turn toward her. The aliens watched her with expressions that ranged from curiosity to disgust. A group of diplomats whispered to each other, their gray skin and 4 eyes making them look like statues come to life. The who resembled tall insects clicked their mandibles in what might have been laughter. Ignored them all. She walked with her head high, her boots making sharp sounds on the metal floor, followed close behind, his tablet ready. They reached the human delegation seats, a small section near the back of the chamber. This was another insult. The oldest species sat at the front, close to the central platform. Humans were placed as far away as possible, like unwanted guests at a party. Sat down and crossed her arms. "Let them play their games," she said quietly too. "Today, things will change." The summit began with boring speeches about trade agreements and resource sharing. Listened carefully, even though most of it did not concern humanity. She was waiting for the real discussion to start. Finally, after 3 hours, High Counselor took the central platform. He was the leader of the Empire and the most powerful being in the galaxy. His body was tall and thin, covered in gray scales that shimmered under the lights. His 4 eyes scanned the chamber with cold intelligence. "Delegates," said, his voice amplified by hidden speakers, "we must now discuss a serious matter. The humans have built colonies in the Theta sector. This sector belongs to the Empire. It has belonged to us for 10,000 years." Murmurs spread through the chamber, stood up. "I request permission to speak," she said loudly. Looked at her like she was an insect. "The human general wishes to speak. How amusing. Very well, come forward." Walked to the platform, feeling the hostility in the room like a physical weight. She stepped up beside, who towered over her by almost 2 feet. But she did not feel small. She had faced enemies much more dangerous than this politician. "High Counselor," began, "with respect, your claim is false. The Theta sector was abandoned by your empire 2,000 years ago. Under galactic law, abandoned territory becomes open for colonization after 500 years of non-use." 4 eyes narrowed. "You dare to lecture me about galactic law? Your species has existed in space for barely a moment. You know nothing of our laws, our history, or our ways." "I know the law," said calmly. "I have the documents to prove our claim. I have survey records, historical data, and legal analysis from independent experts." She held up the data chip. "This contains everything the Council needs to make a fair judgment." Stared at the chip for a long moment. Then he laughed. It was a cold, ugly sound that echoed through the chamber. "Fair judgment," he said. "You think this council cares about your documents. You think these delegates will side with humans over the Empire." He stepped closer too, his shadow falling over her. "Listen carefully, little human. The Theta sector is ours. Your colonies will be removed. Your people will leave or they will die. This is not a negotiation. This is a fact." The chamber was silent. Every delegate watched to see what the human general would do. Looked up at without fear. "No," she said simply. The word hung in the air like a challenge. And in that moment, everything changed. The silence in the grand chamber was complete. Not a single delegate moved. Not a single whisper broke the tension. Every alien in the room stared at the small human woman who had just said no to the most powerful being in the galaxy. High Counselor stood frozen on the platform. His 4 eyes blinked slowly, as if he could not believe what he had just heard. In 12,000 years of history, no one had ever refused him so directly. No one had ever dared. "What did you say?" asked, his voice dangerously quiet. Did not step back. She did not lower her eyes. She stood exactly where she was, her feet planted firmly on the platform, her hands at her sides. "I said no," she repeated. "The human colonies in the Theta sector will not be removed. Our people will not leave. We have every legal right to be there, and we will defend that right." A sound spread through the chamber. It was the clicking and hissing of 100 different alien languages, all expressing the same emotion: shock. The delegates leaned forward, their compound eyes reflecting the lights. The diplomats turned their long necks to get a better view. Even the other in the room seemed surprised. Lieutenant, still sitting in the human section, felt his heart beating fast. He had known General for 5 years, and he had seen her face down enemy fleets without showing fear. But this was different. This was political. One wrong word could start a war. On the platform, took a step closer too. He was nearly 3 meters tall, and his shadow covered her completely. His gray scales seemed to darken with anger. "You are very bold for such a young species," he said. "Do you understand who you are speaking to? I am High Counselor of the Empire. I command fleets that could burn your entire to ash. I rule over 200 star systems and 15 billion subjects." He bent down, bringing his face close to hers. His 4 eyes were cold and empty, like the eyes of a predator. "And you," he continued, "are nothing. Your species is nothing. Humans are weak, primitive creatures who should be grateful we allow them to exist at all." His expression did not change. "Your fleets are impressive," she said calmly, "but we both know that a war with humanity would cost you more than you are willing to pay." This was true, and everyone in the chamber knew it. 20 years ago, they had tested human defenses by attacking a small colony on the border. They expected an easy victory. Instead, they lost 30 warships and over 10,000 soldiers. The humans had fought like demons, refusing to retreat, refusing to surrender, refusing to die quietly. The battle lasted for 3 days, and when it was over, the fleet retreated in shame. Since then, no alien power had directly attacked a human world, but did not like being reminded of this. His scales flushed with color, a sign of extreme anger in his species. He straightened up and looked around the chamber at the other delegates. "You see," he said loudly, "you see how these humans behave. They come into our galaxy, build their ugly colonies wherever they please, and then they threaten us. They have no respect for tradition, no understanding of their place." He turned back to, "Perhaps it is time someone taught humanity a lesson about respect." Saw what was about to happen before anyone else did. He started to stand, his mouth opening to shout a warning, but he was too slow, far too slow. Raised his hand and brought it down across his face. The slap echoed through the grand chamber like a gunshot. It was loud and sharp and shocking. His head snapped to the side from the force of the blow. A thin line of blood appeared at the corner of her mouth where her lip had split. The chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates jumped to their feet. Guards at the doors raised their weapons. Voices shouted in a dozen different languages. The clicked excitedly. The let out high-pitched whistles of surprise. And through it all stood completely still. His hands were shaking. He had never felt such anger in his entire life. He wanted to run to the platform, to defend his general, to kill the alien who had dared to touch her. But training held him back. He knew that any action from him would make things worse. On the platform, smiled. It was a cruel, satisfied smile. He had made his point. He had shown the entire galaxy that humans were beneath him. He had publicly humiliated the representative of the human coalition, and there was nothing she could do about it. "There," he said, his voice carrying across the chaos. "Perhaps now you understand. This is the natural order, the strong rule, the weak obey. Your species is weak, human, remember that." The noise in the chamber began to quiet. Delegates sat back down, watching to see what would happen next. Many of them looked uncomfortable, but none of them spoke against. None of them defended humanity. They were too afraid of the Empire. Still had not moved. Blood dripped from her lip onto the polished floor of the platform. Her head was still turned to the side from the force of the slap. From where sat, he could not see her expression. "General," said, "you may now return to your seat. We are finished here." For a long moment, nothing happened. The chamber was silent again, waiting. Somewhere, a translator whispered the words into another language. Then moved. She raised her hand and wiped the blood from her lip. She looked at the red stain on her fingers, studying it like it was something interesting. Then slowly, she turned her head to face. Felt his breath catch in his throat. He knew that expression. He had seen it before in the middle of battles when the situation seemed hopeless and death seemed certain. It was the expression war when she had decided that something was going to happen and nothing in the universe would stop it. It was not anger, it was not hate, it was something colder than both of those things, something more dangerous. Smiled. "High Counselor," she said, her voice perfectly calm, "do you know why humans are so dangerous?" Frowned. This was not the reaction he expected. The human should be crying or begging or at least showing fear. Instead, she was smiling at him like he had just made a terrible mistake. "Because you do not know when to stop fighting?" he asked mockingly. "No," said, "that is only part of it. The real reason is something else, something that your species and every other species in this galaxy has forgotten. She took a step toward. It was a small step, but it made him take a step backward. He did not understand why. She was small and unarmed. She was just one human woman. Why did he suddenly feel afraid? You see, continued, your species evolved on a peaceful world. Resources were plentiful. Predators were few. You became intelligent through cooperation and technology. The same is true for and every other major species in the galaxy. Another step forward, another step back. But humans are different. Our world was not peaceful. Our world was a battlefield. We evolved surrounded by predators, by disease, by disasters. We had to fight for every meal, every shelter, every day of survival. Her smile widened. We are not just intelligent, High Counselor. We are apex predators. Every cell in our bodies is designed for combat. Our muscles are dense. Our bones are strong. Our reflexes are fast. And when someone threatens us, when someone tries to hurt us, something very old wakes up inside us. She stopped walking. She was now standing directly in front of, looking up at his towering form without any trace of fear. You just woke it up. Opened his mouth to respond. He never got the chance. What happened next was so fast that most beings in the chamber did not understand it until it was already over. His arm moved. It was a blur of motion, faster than any alien eye could follow. Her fist traveled upward in a perfect arc, carrying with it the strength of a species that had survived ice ages, plagues, and wars. Every muscle in her body worked together in one explosive moment. Her fist connected with skull. The sound was horrible. It was wet and crunching, like a heavy stone dropped into soft fruit. The High Counselor's head snapped backward with terrible force. His 4 eyes went wide with shock, and then went dark forever. Ruler of the Empire, commander of the greatest fleet in the galaxy, collapsed to the floor of the platform. He did not move. He did not breathe. Blue blood pooled around his shattered skull, spreading across the polished metal surface like a dark stain. He was dead before he hit the ground. The grand chamber exploded into chaos. Delegates screamed in their native languages. Some ran for the exits. Others stood frozen in their seats, unable to believe what they had just witnessed. They clicked wildly, their compound eyes reflecting the horror of the scene. They let out piercing shrieks that hurt human ears. Guards rushed forward from every direction, their weapons drawn. There were guards in silver armor, guards with energy spears, and station security in gray uniforms. All of them pointed their weapons at the small human woman standing over the body of the most powerful being in the galaxy. Did not move. She stood exactly where she was, her bloody fist still raised, her expression calm and cold. She looked down at the body without any sign of regret or fear. "Hold your fire," someone shouted in the common galactic language. It was one of the station administrators, a small creature with blue skin and too many legs. "Do not fire. Do not make this worse." The guards hesitated. They did not know what to do. Their training had not prepared them for this situation. A delegate had just killed another delegate in the middle of the grand chamber. This had never happened before in the entire history of the Galactic Council. Lieutenant was already moving. He pushed through the crowd, ignoring the aliens who grabbed at him, and ran toward the platform. His heart was pounding, but his mind was perfectly clear. He had trained for emergency situations. He knew exactly what to do. "General," he called out as he reached the platform, "are you injured?" Looked at him. For a moment, something human flickered in her eyes, something that might have been sadness. Then it was gone, replaced by the cold focus of a military commander. "I am fine," she said. "Contact the fleet. Tell Admiral to begin Operation Thunderstrike. We are leaving." Nodded and pulled out his communication device. His fingers moved quickly, sending the encrypted signal that would reach the human warships waiting beyond the station. Around them, the chaos continued. Officers were shouting orders, demanding that the human be arrested, demanding that she be executed on the spot. But no one moved to touch her. The guards stood in a circle around the platform, their weapons raised, but none of them came closer. They were afraid. Saw this, and she understood. She raised her voice so that everyone in the chamber could hear her. "Listen to me," she said. "All of you, listen carefully." The noise in the chamber began to quiet. Aliens stopped running and turned to look at the platform. Even the guards lowered their weapons slightly, waiting to hear what the human would say. "I did not come here to start a war," continued. "I came here to negotiate in good faith. I came here with evidence, with documents, with legal arguments. I followed every rule of this council." She pointed down at the body of. "This creature chose violence. He struck me in front of all of you, in front of the entire galaxy. He insulted my species. He threatened my people, and he expected me to accept it." Her voice grew harder. He was wrong. Humanity does not accept insults. Humanity does not accept threats. And humanity will never bow to any species that tries to treat us as inferior. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of every delegate she could see. "The Theta sector belongs to humanity. This is not a request. This is not a negotiation. This is a fact. Any species that tries to take our colonies will face the full strength of the human coalition." An officer stepped forward. His gray scales were flushed with rage, and his 4 eyes burned with hatred. He was younger than, probably a relative of some kind. His hand rested on the weapon at his belt. "You killed our High Counselor," he said, his voice shaking with anger. "You will pay for this with your life." Looked at him calmly. "You are welcome to try," she said, "but before you do, you should know something." She paused for a moment, letting the tension build. "At this moment, 50 human warships are entering this system. They will arrive at this station in approximately 15 minutes. If I do not send a signal confirming my safety, they will begin firing." The officer's face changed. The anger was still there, but now there was something else too, something that looked very much like fear. "You are lying," he said. Stepped forward, holding up his tablet. "I have just received confirmation from Admiral," he said. "The fleet is on approach. They are armed and ready." The chamber erupted in new chaos. This time, it was not just shock and confusion. It was panic. Delegates rushed toward the exits, pushing and shoving in their desperation to escape. They knew what human warships were capable of. They had heard the stories. They had seen the recordings from the Battle of the Border Colony. Waited until the worst of the panic had died down. Then she stepped off the platform and walked toward the exit. Her boots made sharp sounds on the metal floor, and the crowd parted in front of her like water around a stone. Followed close behind, his eyes watching every direction for threats. Guards still stood around the chamber, but none of them tried to stop the humans. They just watched, their weapons lowered, their eyes filled with a mix of fear and respect. As reached the main doors, she stopped and turned back to face the chamber one last time. "Let this be a lesson," she said, "to all of you. Humans may be young. Humans may be new to the galaxy, but we are not weak, we are not afraid, and we will not be bullied." She smiled, and it was the coldest smile any alien had ever seen. "Touch one of us again, see what happens." Then she turned and walked through the doors, leaving behind the body of the High Counselor and a galaxy that would never look at humanity the same way again. Outside the grand chamber, the corridors of the station were already in chaos. Alarms blared from hidden speakers. Emergency lights flashed red and white. Aliens ran in every direction, some heading for escape pods, others heading for defensive positions. Ignored it all. She walked with purpose toward the docking bay where the human shuttle was waiting. Her face showed no emotion, but inside, her mind was working quickly. She had killed the High Counselor of the Empire. This was an act of war. There was no way to take it back, no way to apologize, no way to pretend it had not happened. From this moment forward, humanity would be at war with the most powerful empire in the galaxy. But did not regret what she had done. She could not regret it, because she knew something that the aliens did not understand. Humanity had been preparing for this moment for 60 years. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier had been trained for the day when they would have to fight for their place in the galaxy. The human military had studied every alien species, learned every weakness, developed every advantage. The Empire was about to learn that humanity was not a young, foolish species. It was a sleeping giant that had just woken up. The human shuttle broke away from the Grand Assembly Station and accelerated into the darkness of space. Through the viewport, could see the distant lights of the human fleet. 50 warships, the most advanced vessels ever built by human hands, were moving into formation around the station. Lieutenant sat at the communications console, monitoring the signals coming from every direction. His face was pale but focused. "General," he said, "I am receiving transmissions from the station. The Galactic Council is demanding that we return. They say you must answer for your actions." Did not turn from the viewport. What else? The Empire has issued a declaration of war against the human coalition. Their fleet is mobilizing. They have already dispatched 12 toward our border colonies. Expected, said, "What about the other species?" Checked his tablet. The collective has declared neutrality. They say they will not take sides in this conflict. The Federation has recalled their ambassador from Earth. They have not declared war, but they have frozen all diplomatic relations. Also expected. Finally turned away from the viewport. She walked to the center of the shuttle and sat down in one of the command chairs. Her face was calm, but could see the weight of responsibility in her eyes. "How long until we reach the fleet?" she asked. 7 minutes, General." "Good, open a channel to Admiral. Encrypted, highest priority." His fingers moved across the console. A moment later, a holographic image appeared in the center of the shuttle. It showed an older man with gray hair and a face that looked like it had been carved from stone. This was Admiral, commander of the 3rd Human Fleet, and one of the most respected military leaders in the coalition. "General," the Admiral said, his voice was deep and steady, "I have been watching the situation. You have started quite a storm." "I am aware, Admiral. What is the status of the fleet?" "All ships are at battle stations. Weapons are charged and ready. We can begin operations on your command." The Admiral paused for a moment. "I should tell you, General, that the Coalition Command has been trying to contact you. The President wants to speak with you directly." Nodded. "I expected that as well. Tell the President that I will speak with her as soon as I am aboard the flagship. But first, we have work to do." "Understood. What are your orders?" Leaned forward in her chair. "They will not attack the station directly. They know we have it surrounded, but they will try to send ships to reinforce their position. I want you to establish a blockade of this entire sector. Nothing enters or leaves without our permission." The Admiral nodded. "And the station itself?" "We will not attack it. The station is neutral territory, and there are millions of innocent beings inside. Our quarrel is with the Empire, not with the other species." "Some in the fleet will not like that," the Admiral said carefully. "They will want revenge for the insults we have suffered." "They will follow orders," said firmly. "Humanity is better than our enemies. We will not slaughter civilians to prove a point." The Admiral's expression softened slightly. There was a hint of respect in his eyes. "Understood, General. I will relay your orders to all ships." The channel closed, and the hologram disappeared. Leaned back in her chair and closed her eyes for a moment. For the first time since the confrontation she allowed herself to feel the full weight of what she had done. She had killed a head of state. She had started a war that would affect billions of lives. She had changed the course of galactic history with a single punch. And she would do it again in a heartbeat. General said quietly, permission to speak freely. Opened her eyes, granted. The young lieutenant hesitated for a moment, choosing his words carefully. What you did in the chamber, I have never seen anything like it. I have served with you for 5 years, but I did not know that humans were capable of that. Looked at him, you mean the strength? Yes, I knew that humans were stronger than most alien species, but I did not know we could kill with a single blow. Was silent for a moment. Then she stood up and walked to the viewport again, looking out at the stars. Humans are strange creatures, Lieutenant. We have spent most of our history trying to overcome our violent nature. We created art, music, philosophy, science. We built civilizations based on cooperation and peace. We told ourselves that we were better than our ancestors, better than the primitive hunters who first walked on 2 legs. She turned to face. But the truth is that violence never went away. It is still inside us, sleeping, waiting. Every human being carries the potential for tremendous destruction. Most of us never have to use it. Most of us live our entire lives without ever knowing what we are truly capable of. Her eyes were hard. I know. I have seen it in battle in myself and in my soldiers. When everything else is stripped away, when survival is the only thing that matters, humans become something terrifying. Something that no other species in this galaxy can match. Nodded slowly. He understood now in a way that he had not understood before. The stories about human soldiers, the legends about their impossible victories, the fear that aliens showed when facing them in combat. It all made sense now. The shuttle is approaching the flagship, the pilot announced, docking in 2 minutes. Straightened her uniform and checked her reflection in the viewport. The blood from was still on her hand. She had not washed it off. She did not want to. Lieutenant, she said, when we board the flagship, I want you to send a message to every human ship in the fleet. Tell them what happened on the station. Tell them exactly what I did and why I did it. Frowned, General, is that wise? Some might see it as boasting. No, said, it is not boasting. It is a reminder of who we are and what we are fighting for. She touched the dried blood on her knuckles. For 60 years, humanity has been treated like children by the galactic community. We have been mocked, insulted, and pushed around. We have accepted it because we wanted peace. We accepted it because we believed that patience would eventually earn us respect. Her jaw tightened. That belief was a mistake. The galaxy does not respect patience. The galaxy respects strength. Today, we showed them our strength. Today, we showed them that humans will not be pushed around anymore. The shuttle entered the docking bay of the flagship. Through the viewport, could see rows of soldiers standing at attention, waiting to receive her. Their faces were serious, their posture perfect. Today, said, the galaxy learned to fear humanity. She walked to the shuttle door as it opened, stepping out into the docking bay. The soldiers snapped to attention and saluted, returned the salute, then walked past them toward the command center. Behind her, hurried to keep up. His tablet was already filling with messages from across the fleet, from Earth, from colonies scattered across human space. Everyone wanted to know what had happened. Everyone wanted to know what would happen next. One message caught his eye. It was from a group of soldiers on the border colony in the Theta sector, the colony that they had threatened to destroy. The message was simple. We heard what you did, General. Thank you. We are ready to fight. Smiled despite himself. The war had not even started yet, but humanity was already united. Fear of the had turned into determination. Doubt had turned into resolve. General had done more than kill one alien leader. She had awakened an entire species. 3 months had passed since the incident at the Grand Assembly Station. 3 months of war, of blood, of fire and destruction. And now, at last, it was over. General stood on the bridge of the flagship Eternal Dawn, watching with tired eyes. Before her was a massive planet of gray continents and silver oceans. Orbiting the planet were the shattered remains of what had once been the greatest fleet in the galaxy. The Empire was defeated. It had not been easy. The war had cost humanity dearly. Over 2 million soldiers had died in the fighting. Dozens of ships had been destroyed. 3 colonies had been damaged by attacks before human forces could respond. But humanity had won. Despite the odds, despite the predictions of every alien analyst, despite the 12,000-year history of military dominance, humans had emerged victorious. Lieutenant stood beside, his tablet filled with reports from across human space. He looked different now than he had 3 months ago. The innocent young officer was gone, replaced by a hardened veteran who had seen too much death. "General," he said quietly, "we are receiving a transmission from the government. They want to discuss surrender terms." Nodded. She had been expecting this. They had fought hard, but once humans had broken through their defensive lines, the war had become hopeless for them. Their technology was advanced, their ships were powerful, but they simply could not match human determination and adaptability. "Put it on screen," she said. The flickered and a new image appeared. It showed an elderly with faded gray scales and dim eyes. This was Elder, the new leader of the Empire. He had taken power after his death, and he had watched his entire civilization crumble in just 90 days. "General," Elder said, his voice was weak and tired, "I come to you in peace. The Empire wishes to end this war." Studied him for a long moment. She felt no satisfaction at his defeat. She felt no joy at seeing the mighty brought low. She only felt exhaustion and the weight of all the lives that had been lost. "What terms do you offer?" she asked. "We will withdraw all claims to the Theta sector," Elder said. "The human colonies there will be recognized as legitimate. We will pay compensation for the damage caused during the war. We will sign a non-aggression pact with the human coalition." He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice was barely above a whisper. "We only ask that you spare our people have suffered enough." Was silent for a moment, then she turned to, "Lieutenant, what is the status of our fleet?" Checked his tablet. "We have sufficient firepower to destroy every city on the within 6 hours. If you give the order, we can end thee as a species." Nodded slowly. She turned back to where Elder watched her with fear in his eyes. He knew that his entire civilization depended on what she said next. Elder said, "3 months ago, your predecessor struck me across the face and called my species weak and primitive. He expected me to accept the insult. He expected humanity to bow down and accept our place as lesser beings." She stepped closer to I killed him for that insult. I started a war that has cost millions of lives on both sides. And now I stand here, with the power to destroy everything your empire has built over 12,000 years. Elder said nothing, he simply waited. "But I will not do it," said, "because humanity is not like we do not destroy our enemies when they are already defeated. We do not slaughter civilians to prove our dominance. We are better than that." Relief flooded Elder's face. "Then you accept our surrender." "I accept your surrender," confirmed. "But understand this clearly. Humanity will not forget what happened. We will not forget the insults, the threats, the arrogance. If any species ever tries to treat us as inferior again, they will face the same fate as your empire." She let those words hang in the air for a moment. "The galaxy has changed, Elder. Humanity is no longer a young species to be bullied and dismissed. We are a power equal to any other, and we will be treated with respect." Elder bowed his head. "It will be as you say, General. The Empire recognizes humanity's place in the galaxy." The transmission ended, and the return to showing turned away and walked to her command chair. She sat down heavily, suddenly feeling every year of her age. Approached her carefully. "General, shall I inform Coalition Command that the war is over?" "Yes, and tell them I will be returning to Earth as soon as possible. There will be many meetings, many discussions about what happens next." Nodded, but he did not leave immediately. "General, if I may ask, why did you spare them? After everything they did, after all the soldiers who died fighting them, why show mercy?" Looked at him. For a moment she seemed very tired. "Because mercy is strength, Lieutenant. Any fool can destroy their enemies. It takes wisdom to know when destruction serves no purpose." She looked back at the defeated world of their former enemy. They will remember this day. They will remember that humanity had the power to destroy them and chose not to. That memory will keep the peace better than any weapon ever could. Nodded slowly. He understood. Victory through destruction was temporary. Victory through respect would last for generations. "There is one more thing," he said. "The Galactic Council has issued a formal invitation. They want humanity to take a permanent seat on the High Council. They want you specifically to be our representative." Raised an eyebrow. "Me, the woman who killed their previous High Counselor. They say that your actions, while extreme, have earned their respect. They say that humanity has proven itself worthy of a place at the highest level of galactic government." Laughed. It was a short, bitter sound. "3 months ago, they placed us in the back of the chamber like unwanted guests. Now they want us at the head table. Will you accept?" Thought about it for a long moment. She thought about the soldiers who had died, the families who had lost loved ones, the destruction that had spread across dozens of star systems. She thought about the future, about what humanity could become if they worked with the other species instead of against them. "Yes," she said finally, "I will accept, but not as a representative of humanity." Frowned. "I do not understand." "I will accept as a reminder," said. "A reminder to every species in the galaxy of what happens when you underestimate humanity. A reminder that we are not to be pushed around, not to be insulted, not to be dismissed." She stood up from her chair and straightened her uniform. The galaxy wanted to know who humanity really is. Now they know. We are survivors. We are fighters. We are apex predators who have learned to build civilizations and create art and dream of the stars. She walked to the viewport and looked out at the endless darkness of space. "But we have never forgotten where we came from. We have never forgotten the fire that burns in our hearts, and we will never let anyone make us forget." Behind her smiled. He had followed General for years, through battles and negotiations, through triumph and tragedy. He had watched her transform from a military leader into something more, something that would be remembered for generations. A symbol, a legend, a warning to the galaxy. The war was over, but humanity's story was just beginning. And as the fleet began its long journey home, every species in the galaxy watched the stars with new eyes. They had learned a lesson that they would never forget. Humanity was not to be touched. Never again.